Good evening and happy Saturday evening at that to you all. I hope that you've all had a very wonderful day today. Today is day 7. Obviously going into day 8, but it's a little late. And this evening I thought I would talk a little bit about the dumb supper. Which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's part of Celtic tradition and belief, but some other cultures have it as well. And there we go. And the dumb supper is a well-known Halloween or Samhain tradition in certain parts of the world. The details vary according to local custom, just as with any other thing as well. However, the basic intent remains the same. It's to encourage the presence of a spirit or your deceased loved ones to come to dine with you. The dumb supper is an evening meal held in silence or with very minimal conversation, with extra place settings laid out for your dead loved ones or any spirits else or any other spirits that you choose to invite to your supper at this meal. Ideally, the meal should take place near midnight as possible, but this isn't absolutely necessary. You can fit it in whenever you can. When you prepare the food, a good thing to do is to think about those people that you would like to invite from your family to join you for this meal. So you want to think about them when you're preparing the food as to welcome them. Some people say that the preparation itself and everything leading up to the meal should take place in total silence as well, but not completely necessary. The other regional custom variations, such as laying out the place settings back to front, sometimes even the courses themselves are eaten backwards, which means you would start with dessert instead of your appetizers. Starting with sweets. Presumably the reversals are meant to appeal to the spirits who have passed over from the normal into the other side. Other ritual preparations also include using black napkins. You can also drape a chair black, or the chairs black if you wish, as well as the table. Setting candles out, and the guests joining hands before the meal. Basically offering a prayer. Dumb supper can be as simple or as elaborate as you like, depending on your desire for how theatrical or how formal or how informal you choose to be. That is completely up to you. The only absolute necessity is the intent of what you're doing. It also mentions silence, but as long as you keep conversation to relevant as to what's going on. The whole idea is to have that meal in silence so that way you can better sense their presence while you're dining. There are those, so who are the spirits that are being invited to dinner? Normally they would be the recently deceased family members that you have. It's important to have a clear image of that person in your mind throughout the preparation and eating of the meal. You wouldn't want just any old spirit sharing your table, but this also allows you to, you can also put their photos at the table if you want to invite them as well, just so that helps complete your mental picture of them dining with you, if you have a photo of them. Variations of customs say that it can be used for divinatory purposes. For example, to see an image of one's future partner. So you're kind of like tapping into their energy, perhaps to work with it, to glean from it, or take whatever you can from their presence while they're with you. I had run across this really cool post when I was researching this from Walking with Ancestors at blogspot.com, and I really liked the way this person had discussed that they were going to do their ritual. or their dumb supper. They actually have a chair at the head of the table, which they called their spirit chair. And there's a setting there for the spirits, a place setting. And this is set out for those spirits who wander the night and wish no harm, but wish a moment of hospitality. Because not every soul that wanders or that is around is, is mean or bad. They sometimes just want to have that, community again and that hospitality. Let's see. As far as the rest of the table goes, if you're going to set out for like loved ones in your family, you can set them out and have their place. You can put their name on the plate. You can set a tea light on that plate, which is something else that they suggested in this blog post. They set tea lights out for all of their immediate family members, and then they had one candle on the plate for the spirit, for those that wandered in. As far as it begins, at the beginning of the meal, they stood behind the chair, and to invite the ancestors to come in and dine with you. You can go as far as opening the front door, and inviting them into your home, literally. You can light the candle, then afterwards at the place setting in front of the spirit chair. You can pour a libation into the cup at the head of the table, to call the ancestors. And I really like the words that they used at the beginning of the meal. And I'll just say this as part of their ritual ceremony. It goes, "To those who have gone before, to those whose names live in our hearts and dance upon our lips, to those whose names have been lost in the sea of time, to those whose bones lie above and below the earth, to those whose ashes have traveled on the winds, we the living bid you welcome and entrance." And so then you would start to do the meal. And in this particular blog, this person was talking about how they started with dessert first. And then they worked from the main meal to side dishes to if they had soup and salad, all the way up to appetizers. So appetizers were the last thing that they ate. You can even go as far as to, if you set your place settings, left to right, you would flip that around and do it completely opposite. For this meal as well. You would serve traditional food that some of your ancestors would like to have, as well as what you would be dining for yourself. And food does get set out for them on the plate. It doesn't have to be huge, obviously, but you do want some token, like a spoonful or whatever, placed on the plate just to acknowledge that they're getting something. And it kind of helps, like in their blog post, they also mentioned how one person invited their great-grandma, and they sat across from them at the table, so that way they could stare at the chair with the intent of seeing them there. And so that's where hence the silence comes in to play. And just, it allows you to be more sensory immersed into the experience. Because when we chit-chat and stuff, we're detracting from what's going on. And when you sit in silence, you can allow yourself to feel everything. It becomes much more of a sensory experience when you sit in that space. You can play some soft music if you'd like. Either like at the onset or in the middle. You can choose to keep dinner, that whole meal portion, silent, or perhaps something soft and subtle in the background if you so choose. Again, completely up to you. And then afterwards, when the meal is finished, you would just take a few moments to express your gratitude to those came and who dined with you. And when you feel like the event is over, it doesn't have to be immediately after you eat, because obviously we sit and we linger. When you think that things feel done, you can thank your guest for coming. You can go ahead and open up the front door to let out those who came to join you. And you can wish them wishing them a safe journey for the rest of their evening on Samhain. You can tell them to leave as they will. If they're ready to go, they can head out. It's kind of like, go if you must, stay if you will, blah, blah, blah. That whole deal. And then you're going to let your ancestral tea lights that of your family members burn out on their own. And then you can go ahead and blow out the candle for that was sitting at the spirit chair is what they did. And then in return, let's see. And then you're going to take the cup that had the libation from the spirit chair, and you're going to take that outside. And then you can, and all of this is at the end and throughout the whole thing should be done with sacred intent. So as you go out to dump out the libation onto the ground, onto Pachamama, you would again say the same thing that you said at the intro. To those who have gone before, to those whose names live in our hearts and dance upon our lips, to those names who have been lost in the sea of time, to those whose bones lie above and below the earth, to those whose ashes have traveled on the winds, we, the living, thank you for dining with us. We, the living, wish you safe travels. Ideally, at this point, you would dispose of the food sacredly. You could either burn it, you can bury it, or traditionally it is placed in running water. Or you can go ahead and leave it out in the woods for the critters and other travelers to enjoy as well. And dispose of it, again, with sacred intent. And that's pretty much the gist of a dumb supper. Or a feast of the dead, as you will, is another name for it, too. So it's almost kind of like what I've been talking about. It's indicative to what we do in Latin culture when we go to the graveyard and we have this meal with our loved ones, and we're sharing that with them. Or when they come to the house, and on the day that's appropriate, whether the November 1st or 2nd, and that meal is there for them. So you can kind of see like how different cultures still have that same, there's little similarities that carry over from one to another. And when you think about it, it's on completely two different continents, so it's kind of really cool. There you go. I hope that you enjoyed this, because I was kind of like trying to figure out what I was going to do tonight. So I figured a dumb supper is always good to discuss, because some people know about it, some people don't. Might not be new for some of you it might be. But I just like the little nuances that kind of tie it all together to other cultures, and it's just nice to see. It's the honoring part and the homage to the ancestors, which is so nice to have, and to see how other cultures tie that to their roots and appreciation of that. So I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We'll think of something. I thought of something today. Cheers. Cheers to the ancestors this evening, as I'm enjoying some homemade cider that was given to me from a friend at work. And what's in the glass? It's going to get poured out. So I gave a little bit as offering will go out on the ground this evening to those as they are starting to travel home as the veil thins, or who are here. I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful evening, and much love to you all. Many blessings. Aho. Namaste. Have a good night.